Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. Now, following the Monster 4080 Strix that we looked at last time, Scan have also very kindly sent me a 4070 Ti. So again, we're going to use this in different builds, benchmarks, comparisons and things like that. And we're going to do an unboxing and overview of this today. This is the OC version. It's a little bit more expensive than the standard model, but for an extra about £40 or so, you do get a bit of a higher boost and core clock from the standard version. So might be something you want to consider. So again, a massive thank you to Scan for sending this out for me. Scan have really helped me out with a load of different products that you've seen on the channel. It's really hard to get 40 series cards just because there's generally either a couple on rotation or my channel is just not the size that they require to send out seeded samples. So they really do open a lot of doors that I otherwise can't get at the moment. So really do appreciate their support. So please check them out down below. Let's open the TUF 4070 Ti. I've got the 3080 Ti here, just as a little size comparison we can do in a minute. Let's get this one open. So, as I mentioned, OC edition, 12GB GDR6X memory, 7,680 cores on this model, 4nm Ada Lovelace architecture. So we have a boost clock of 2,730 megahertz, which is about 100 or so more than the standard edition. So if you do want to pay a little bit extra, you will get the higher boost. So first and foremost, very nice spot gloss box, and it seems like it's one that kind of opens up in a kind of folding pattern. There we go. So it opens up like that. So of course we've got the card itself. We have got an adapter, and then there's a little sticker thing that folds back, maybe for cable management. I'm guessing to go with the adapter. There's also, I've seen one of these before. This is a little support for a GPU sag, but if you undo it a little bit further, there's also a little screwdriver on the end, so you can actually install with that, and then you've got a little anti-sag bracket afterwards. This here is a phone stand that pops out, all made of cardboard. You can make yourself a little stand from that. Warranty card. There's the little collector cards that you get with some of the graphics cards and motherboards and things. So there's some information. There's a graphics card holder I mentioned, also the little doubling as the screwdriver. Certificate of reliability you get with all the ASUS TUF products. Oh, here it is, absolute chonk. Now I believe that all of the TUF cards and also the Strix cards have the same cooler for whatever model you get. So if you get 4080, 4090, that's one thing is a benefit from the Strix, for example. That's the same cooler for every model. So we can just put it into any cases and see if it's going to fit. I can tell you if it's going to work regardless of what model you're going to get, because obviously it's the same size. So that's something that's very good between all the different models, even though they are big cards. So we've got a number of pills on this. Let's get these done first. So these are Axle Tech fans here. These give you up to 21% more airflow than traditional fans, just because of the way that they're designed. Look carefully, you can see there's massive heat pipes in there. Big old dense fin array. So the PCB goes about 3/4 of the length. You can tell that cooler is absolutely massive for the actual size of the card. So you can tell it's over-engineered, but that's never a bad thing, especially when it comes to cooling. It just means that the card's going to be bigger, but it will stay nice and cool. So back plate, I've got a matte back plate, whereas on the last card we had more of a shine. You can tell side by side that they're a bit more shiny on the previous edition. I've got the printed GeForce logo there again. Now I do know that the TUF logo on the end and also the little strip below do light up as well, much like we had the TUF logo on the 30 series card that lit up. On the end you can see 4 of those heat pipes coming through. Then you've also got the screws for the support if you want to add those. Just below the GeForce RTX on the back plate there, we've also got a performance and a quiet mode switch. By default it is on performance, but you can obviously swap that over if you want a quieter system. If you're buying a 4070 Ti, then I think you're likely going to be sticking it in performance mode anyway. So let's go to the back and also the rear I/O. So this is 3.25 slots wide. So then our rear I/O, we've got 3 display ports. These are 1.4A, and then 2 HDMIs, which are 2.1A. You can do a maximum of 8K, and this supports 4 monitors. Even though there's 5 connections, not quite sure why that is. Now size, this is 305mm long by 138mm high and 65mm deep. So comparing it to the 3080, it's actually the same size. Didn't realise that. I thought it was going to be a little bit bigger, but it's not. A bit more of a squared off design with the 40 series, but in terms of size, absolutely bang on to the previous gen. Now thickness wise, the 40 series is thicker, but minus that, the length and the height are exactly the same. So the 40 series does seem a bit more square than the 30 series, but minus it being a little bit thicker, the length and height are still the same. So a couple of last things to mention before we put it into the rig is this is a 750 watt recommended power supply card, and then the pricing wise is $879 for the standard edition and $909 for the overclocked. So I think all we need to do now is get it into a system and see how it performs. So our test system is an Intel 12900K that's on an ASUS Z690 Hero. We've got 32 gigabytes of Kingston Beast DDR5, that's G6 mega transfers per second, cast latency 40. Seagate FireCuda 530 as our boot storage, that's 1 terabyte, Gen 4. Then cooling is a Corsair H170 Elite LCD. Okay, so first up, probably the most demanding of our titles. This is Cyberpunk 2077. I've gone for a high ray tracing preset, and then I've adjusted things to turn DLSS off. I want to see the raw performance because, let's be fair, not every game has DLSS, so we want to give you an idea of raw performance over using the AI enhancements. So let's now run the benchmark and see what kind of FPS we get. So I didn't expect it to be absolutely mind-blowing, but 44.9 is our average. This is a game that does benefit from using DLSS, and I have already tested that, so you will get around 125 on the same preset using DLSS on a balanced preset, so just if you're wondering. But now let's move on to our next game. So under Crisis Remastered, I've gone for a very high preset, and then I've got high ray tracing, and then I've got DLSS off to see what we can get raw performance wise. Motion blur is also off because it's trash. So let's see what we get with this. Okay, so as we run up the hill on about 106 frames a second, I'm actually quite happy with that, considering we're not using any DLSS at all, literally just a raw performance of the card. Already dead. Well, I think it's a record for me. Just ignore that. Now, of course, if you're going to be using a high refresh rate monitor, then just drop your settings down a little bit to get to a matching frame rate for the monitor. So it's very simple there. 130-ish frames, 125 there, 140, 150. So pretty good results considering we're using very high. So for Apex Legends, we've gone absolutely cranked as high as we possibly can. I've got NVIDIA Reflex off, so there's no kind of benefit from that. We're going to go for raw performance again. So 185 frames, which is crazy considering the fact that we're still in the air where everything has to be loaded rather than on the ground where it's only loading like specific areas at a time. So very impressed so far. When we get on the ground, we might get up to like 280, 300 FPS, something like that. So 260, bit of a little dip there to 210, but that's just a periodic thing it seems. We're sticking around 290 frames though, pretty good. I really want to get them. Ah, damn it. We're taking the whole team then. About 250 frames there. 222, quite a lot going on though, so a little dip as expected. So high of about 290 there, and then little dips down to about 220. So pretty good. And considering that I'm only using 144Hz monitor, you could certainly go higher if you wanted to use something with a higher refresh rate. So for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we used a highest preset, literally everything cranked, and we saw an average of 181 FPS. So a very good result for Tomb Raider. Now we're using the highest preset quality on this, which doesn't have ray tracing on by default, but that does keep it equal across the board from all the graphics cards that I've shown. So if you want to go and watch another video, you know the FPS you're going to compare is accurate. So Dirt 5, we run the ultra high preset, literally everything just absolutely maxed out, and then we're going to run the benchmark to see what results this will give us. So the results were in, we had an average of 153. So again, I've said it so many times, high refresh rate monitor, 144Hz, which is what I've actually currently using now. You might want to lower your settings down just a little bit in case you get any lower dips, then that will allow for, constantly being at 144Hz. But other than that, absolutely solid. So let's now do our last game, then we'll do a little conclusion. So last but not least, we've got Far Cry 6, again, ultra, everything but motion blur, and 1440p. So let's run the benchmark and see what this gives us. Average of 124, this is one of the games you might want to turn down just a little bit. It's not quite cyberpunk demanding, but it is certainly one of the higher ones in the benchmark suite that I run. So temperature wise, we've got a hotspot high of 77.1, and that's not bad at all considering that I'm playing in a room that's got an ambient temperature of 24.1, so that's obviously down to 53, so really good even on a warm day. there we have it. Some really great results from our 4070 Ti, but kind of expected that it is a high-end card. Everything maxed out pretty much minus Far Cry and Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk notoriously difficult to run. I did do a little bit of a deep dive about DLSS and things with Cyberpunk on my 4070 video if you want to watch that, if you want to learn how to optimize it a little bit better and show how to really, you know, make the most of the technology that is built in with the AI and stuff like that. It's like 7 out of 8 frames are rendered with AI to get you a crazy high frame rates. It does actually look just as nice as well. You don't really lose that much quality either. But that aside, 4K, you might be able to do a little bit of 4K if you're happy with playing medium-high settings. I wouldn't go expecting to be able to crank it on 4K. That's more for a 4080. We did do a video on this as well, playing in 4K with the ASUS 4K monitor as well, if you want to check that out. So it does sit, you know, high 1440p, medium, high 4K, depending on the game. Also with the RGB, a little bit of tasteful RGB on this card, not too crazy, kind of like the 3080 as well. It's got a little bit of a section on the top, but you can disable this in ASUS Armoury Crate if you so wish. So you don't have to have it on all the time. You can obviously turn it off. Great thing about RGB, you don't have to have it on at all if you don't want to. So there is the options there for those guys that are wondering about it. If there's any other games that you'd like testing, like specifically, then do let me know. Obviously this is more an overview and a bit of a testing rather than a full review with just pages and pages of benchmarks. So do let me know and I'll see what I can do, maybe test it as and when I've got time. If anyone's wondering about 4K as well, I'll add a link in the description for games that have been tested in 4K. But like I said, generally going to be aiming for mid to high settings. So I think that's it for this video. Last but not least, big thank you to Scan for sending out this card for me to look at, and the 4080 and the 3080. God, these numbers are confusing for me to look at. Stay tuned for all the builds and stuff with these cards. Looking forward to some certain ones that I've got coming up. They're going to be very spicy builds. So yeah, thank you to those guys. Their support does mean a lot to me, especially as the size of my channel is. We're able to do a lot of things that we otherwise wouldn't be able to with the kind of stats that I've got. So thank you guys, it really does mean the world to me. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Links will be in the description boxes below if you want to pick one up. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.